Welcome to Ad Age Studio 30 Live. I'm John Dioso, editor of Ad Age Studio 30. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please give us a wave and let us know where you're joining us from, and we'll give you a shout out later. Ever since GDPR heralded the great consumer privacy regulation, brands and marketers knew that a massive tidal wave of regulations would soon hit our shores, and even with the recent announcement that the most popular web browser would delay eliminating third-party cookies until the end of 2023, the smart move is to start coming up with replacement options now. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Eric Larson, America's lead for digital and emerging technology at EY, Amy Summy, Executive Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer at LabCorp, and Elisa Bergman, Chief Privacy Officer at Adobe, to talk about what the entire C-suite, with CMOs at the center, needs to do to adequately prepare for the impending cookieless world. Welcome, everybody.
Thanks, John.
Hi, John.
Hello, Eric. I think you're muted.
Thank you.
Give us a shout. Hey, nice to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's get started. Okay, now before we get into the specifics about what the current data landscape and how it affects marketing, I'd like to get your perspectives on privacy itself, particularly since Amy and Elisa both come at this issue from such high-profile yet distinct positions. Elisa, since you're the Chief Privacy Officer here, let's start with you. Is there a misconception of what privacy is, or what it should be? And further, is there a compliance bias that you think CMOs need to overcome?
Thanks for the question, John. It's really a delight to be here with you and Amy and Eric. We believe implementing data privacy requirements shouldn't be viewed as an obligation, but really as an opportunity. And actually, it can even be thought of as a competitive differentiator in the experience brands provide to their consumers. No longer should privacy be thought of as just a compliance or check the box issue. We really think this is a moment where CMOs can reimagine how they think about privacy and really think about it as the chance to make a great first impression with your users. It helps you build trust and deliver a mutual exchange of value. I often say that good privacy is good business. The best interests of your consumers will really be tied to the best interests of your business. So great experiences built on privacy at the outset drive trust and consumer engagement. In this way, consumers will be more willing to engage with the brands that they trust and really get value from the relationships. So think about it as a competitive differentiator and really a great part of the experience.
But do you really think, in the second part of the question, do you think there's some type of bias? Is there still this perception that privacy, the way you laid it out was perfect, but is there some type of bias that people think that this is a negative? Is that something you've seen?
If there is, we really think this is the opportunity to flip it around and really see it as that chance to make a good first impression and really think about the experience with your users. As consumers take more agency over their data, as there's changes in the landscape in terms of regulations and technological changes, this is really your chance to do right by your users and really lean into privacy.
All right, let's go to Amy. Amy, as a CMO in the healthcare industry, you're dealing with a whole different level of privacy. So how do HIPAA regulations inform how you use customer data in light of the new broader privacy regulations that are being implemented, particularly during this time when your consumer base has expanded so broadly due to the COVID testing over the past year and a half?
Yeah, thanks, John, Eric, and Elisa. Great to see you guys. I have to say, when I was listening to Elisa, I was saying, yes, I totally agree with her. So with us, we have, we serve over 100 million consumers. We have tens of thousands of healthcare providers and pretty much every pharma that we serve. And we kind of start with the core to our brand promise is providing information to help make healthcare decisions. So data is very central to our value proposition to our customers. And, LabCorp, like every healthcare company, is in a highly regulated industry. So we're governed by HIPAA, but a lot of other regulations. And so you layer on privacy and security regulations that are coming into marketing, and there's just like a highly regulated environment. But that doesn't really mean that we can't innovate and serve our customers. And I totally agree that securing customer data is part of our value proposition and our differentiation. So if you take what we do, we're thinking about what does the customer need? And then we're always thinking about in a regulated environment, and they expect us to be their custodians of the data that they give us. So when COVID came, it was really interesting to see how the healthcare landscape is changing, but it really didn't change for what that obligation was from us to our customer. So what COVID did was, everybody was sharing their information very freely. We all know who's been tested, who's been vaccinated. People are sharing it all over the place. And customer expectations during COVID really accelerated. Everybody needed data, information, results, real time. And that was a very big change for us. So what we had to do is we had to stand up websites. We were standing up new reports, integration with apps, just within days of the demand and new tests to market. And all of that was done in a regulated environment, and the demand for the customer, plus the help from regulators, really allowed LabCorp to bring results to our customers faster. And I just think it can all be done together. I think you can think about a regulated environment, privacy concerns that consumers have. As long as you have a great value proposition, you should be able to make it work. And for us, I do think it is a differentiator in the market.
Eric, since Amy brought up data, I'd like you to kind of weigh in on, let's get into the data aspect a little deeper. And, as we said in the beginning, now the third-party cookies are going to be going away, even though they're not going away until the end of 2023, which is over 2 years from now. What should the industry and CMOs in particular be doing to find better alternative solutions?
I love the way Amy described the intentionality of the brand promise and how it relates to privacy. And Elisa referenced it as well. It's an opportunity to really take this extra time and make sure that your foundations are super strong. So starting with that intention, making sure that you've actually made a call on how you want privacy to be reflected in your brand promise, and then lining up your data strategy to support your brand strategy, ensuring that you have the access to the data you need, and only that much, and only for the time period you need to keep it in order to deliver on the brand promise. And then ultimately, in order to make sure all of that stays in sync, now's a great time to reach out and strengthen your relationships with your technology counterparts as well. Marketing and technology are so interdependent, but we don't always spend the right amount of time building that bridge and maintaining that infrastructure inside of our personal relationships.
Great. And Amy, we've been talking a little bit about data here, and the COVID pandemic obviously had a major impact on your business. Can you share any examples of how first-party data, particularly in light of the past year, informed your marketing or business plans? You started hinting at it a little bit before, but I'd love you to kind of tell us a little bit about how it led to any unique insights into offering maybe new products or services for your customers.
Yeah, I mean, at the onset of COVID, we really committed to being the source of information for, frankly, the public. We were just getting a lot of questions because of our role in COVID. And what happened was we started by providing great information. We were also seeing a lot of traffic come our way, a lot of interest come our way. So, we just have a habit. We meet twice a week now. It used to be every single day. And we look at what the data is telling us and what people need. So, for example, when school hit last summer, we were getting a lot of information from college students, very worried about what they need to do to get into college safely. A few examples in the last year, we took information from first party, from what was coming to us and what we were saying to develop products. So back in December, people couldn't get tested. And we were thinking about that, and we were thinking about, well, why can't we figure out a product for over-the-counter in the pharmacy? Wouldn't that be easier? We worked with science and the FDA, and we are hearing this information from our customers. So we worked with them, and we developed the first product that's on the shelves of 6,000 Walgreens today. You can get a test that's just as good as the one you get at the hospital at a Walgreens and a CVS. We took the same approach for kids that are 2 and over. They didn't have an easy test even this year. And we developed a FDA authorized test for children 2 and over. And I think the final example was pretty interesting. It was just taking inquiries that were coming to us from small businesses. And they were asking us, how do I can't reopen my business. I can't get my people tested. And we started analyzing the data. We frankly made some outbound calls to those people that were making those inquiries. And out of that, we developed a whole new product line for very small businesses so they could reopen. And all of these products, the over-the-counter, the 2+, and the small business, they're the leading products in the market now. And they just came from simply listening to our customers and analyzing our data in a pretty rigorous manner.
And it's not even, that goes beyond privacy safe. I mean, it's that one-on-one type of relationship that's the safest type of relationship that you can possibly build in a marketing sense.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we have a lot of data, right? So we're getting better. We're not perfect. The whole third-party cookie thing is really forcing us to accelerate our strategies. But we have a ton of data on individuals and businesses. We need to use it to serve the individual or to serve the doctor and the patient. That's very important to us to preserve that trusted bond between us and our customers. And we don't trip that. We're very, very thoughtful about what we do for our customers. And we know we have competitors that might do different things, but we're very bound to that trust and that bond.
All right, well, if you're just joining us, this is Ad Age Studio 30 Live. I'm John Dioso, the editor of Studio 30, and I'm Eric Larson, America's lead for digital and emerging technology at EY, Amy Summy, executive vice president and chief marketing officer at LabCorp, and Elisa Bergman, chief privacy officer at Adobe, are with me today to discuss how CMOs can prepare for the consumer privacy revolution. Now, Elisa, let's go back to you. Adobe has a core customer base of users and also builds technology solutions for enterprise customers. How has your customer zero perspective informed how you approach your role?
Thanks, John. I loved hearing your story, Amy, because it resonates very well with me too. And also, maybe I'll answer that question by talking to you about my own journey to this role that I have here at Adobe. In past roles where there were projects that involved data, I'd ask questions like, what types of users are involved? Is the scope global? What promises did we make to the users when we collected the data? And all of these are really important questions for experience makers when they want to use data responsibly in the kinds of ways that we heard Amy talk about. And I joined Adobe because I actually wanted to have a broader impact on these issues. And so coming to Adobe really gives me the chance to be able to drive industry solutions and design privacy by design into the products and services that so many of the world's leading brands like EY and LabCorp use. And it really couldn't be a more exciting time to reimagine with the cookieless future, how we market in this shifting landscape. And so for Adobe in this role as customer zero, what we do is we really build our products through that privacy by design approach that I mentioned. That is really baking privacy in rather than bolting it on. So we think about it at the beginning, we think about it throughout, and then we measure it at the end of the day. It really enables us to deliver our enterprise customers with the privacy tools and technologies that they can use for the kinds of experiences you heard about that are responsible, transparent, definitely needs to be on brand, and really in line with what your users expect and wants. So in other words, what we really focus on is what I'll call technology-enabled data governance. And that really is giving those experience makers the tools and technologies they need so they can surface the right experience that the consumers want at the right time, how they want it, all in a really privacy-forward way. So it's really exciting to be in this position. It's a position that we take very seriously, being the extension of the trust that consumers put in the brands that we're lucky to serve. So, yeah.
Eric, now both Amy and Elisa have kind of referenced, working with their respective teams a little bit, but I'd love to get explore just for a second here. Just we've talked a lot about there being these stumbling blocks. What have been the major stumbling blocks for the C-suite in aligning on new ways to reflect the confluence of technology, marketing, privacy, and regulatory issues that you've seen? And then Elisa and Amy, please weigh in after Eric.
I think you hit on it and how you framed it, which was new ways of working. So often, our clients are finding that in different parts of the organization, they work in very different ways from each other, and they have a hard time bringing one consistent approach to being able to activate their data effectively. And so to that end, we work with a wide range of clients, but one that I could tell a little story about is that I work with personally has been struggling with ingesting a transaction they did, an acquisition they did over a year ago, and they just weren't able to get that data activated effectively to drive some new customer experiences that they were looking for with that acquisition. What we helped them do was back up and really get on the same page about what the approach was going to be to work across these different functional silos. And we brought in a frame of Agile, but also made sure that everybody understood what that meant. So Agile is perhaps the most overused and least understood term out there right now. But executives think that they're going to get better, faster, cheaper. What they don't really recognize in so many times is that Agile is really about discipline. It's about ensuring that people are working on the most important thing. But it doesn't mean you throw everything else out and it's somehow just magically fast and free. And so as we help them transition into a shared understanding of what the ways of working are going to be, they did start to get that benefit that they're looking for. But it wasn't really an issue with marketing or with technology. It was that there are humans in the middle of all of this, and they were talking past each other.
Before we get to Lisa and Amy to follow up, I just wanted to shout out some of the people. Thank you again for joining us today. Joining us from Palm Springs, we've got Kimberly. From Orlando, we've got Alexander. From Canada, it's a big country, we've got Kevin. From Washington, D.C., Michael. And in Atlanta, we've got Tracy. Thank you again for joining us today. And Elisa and Amy, can you just each share any lessons for how your respective companies have dealt with these challenges of alignment and what you each did to overcome them and move forward? Elisa first, and then Amy.
Oh, sure. Well, we always say the privacy is everyone's responsibility. It's not just the privacy's team. And we often talk about the privacy village. And there's something else that we talk about actually inside Adobe too, which I'll call this Mars-Venus dynamic. We say privacy principles are from Venus and engineering rules are from Mars. And that is that everyone needs to understand how each other thinks and speaks about these issues. And what I mean by that is, in terms of the privacy principles being from Venus, you have a requirement, legally speaking, like the right to be forgotten. How do you turn that into time-bound, specific, actionable requirements that you drive through an engineering stack? Those are the kind of examples where everyone needs to learn each other's language to be able to be sure that we're speaking in a meaningful way to each other and really bringing to life privacy requirements throughout the organizations. And if I think about a particular example too, something that we worked on that's relevant for this audience, maybe I'll share with you the experience of something that we call experiential privacy. And our vision, as many of you know, for our enterprise customer is that people don't just want products or services. They really want great experiences. So this goes back to what I spoke about earlier on, which is to make privacy a positive part of the experience. Really bringing together regulatory requirements, user expectations, and an on-brand design experience. So those cookie banners that we all see and those other notices, they're driven by legal requirements. But why not, again, as I mentioned previously, think about that as your first opportunity to make a great first impression with your users. So we brought together something in what we called a design jam, and we brought in experienced designers, people from the legal team, the technical team was there, the marketers there, and everybody had their own KPIs. At the end of the day, really the KPI was to do right by the user, but bringing those all together and learn how to speak each other's language and really make the ability of a great transparent notice come to life for our users is an example of how we were all able to work together and really bring together the best of the privacy village.
Oh, that's great. I love that. And the privacy regulations are from Mars and Venus. Say that again. It's
privacy principles are from Venus and engineering rules are from Mars.
There you go. And it has nothing to do with boys and girls, right?
Nothing at all.
Okay. All right. Good. Excellent. Amy, you referred before that you used to have these meetings, especially I assume during the crunch of the pandemic, that you had these daily meetings to just really align and figure out what you guys needed to do to, one, to help, but also to move things forward. Can you just tell a little bit about, again, we're talking about alignment as Eric referred to it before. What were the challenges that you saw in those daily meetings? Is that something you've kind of moved past now that have you been able to work out some other way?
Yeah, it's, I think when I think about how we got through the early parts of the pandemic, we have a mission that a lot of healthcare companies have similar missions. Ours is improve health and improve lives. So it comes down to the patient, right? The person and their health and their life. So when we were early on in the pandemic, I mean, this was a situation where, no one had done anything like this. There hadn't been anything like this in over 100 years. And so it was really all teams on deck to figure out what we were going to do. And there were times where, people wanted information faster. People wanted information to be released publicly. Pharmaceutical companies wanted to know information about patients and populations. And, a lot of the needs had great reasons for them, but we would weigh everything against, the patient. And is this improving their health and their life? And that was our litmus test. It still is our litmus test. Here, it's a very, working with IT and legal compliance, you can imagine in a healthcare company, it's just the way you work. So, marketing can have a great idea. We're sitting on a great idea right now, and we're waiting for the regulations to evolve. We're waiting for the business to say yes, and for our science and our legal teams to say yes. And we all know we're sitting on it. It's a great thing, but we can't move until all those things come together, and everybody needs to say yes. And there's not an attitude here that, so is slowing us down. I have many stories from the pandemic days where I was on the phone with either our general counsel or her leadership, at midnight, trying to figure out how do we serve the public as well as make sure we're fully in compliance with everything that we needed to be. And we're not only protecting the patient, we're also protecting LabCorp's reputation. It's a 50-year-old company that has been built around trust and around healthcare. So while we were in a rapid situation and everybody was working hard, there were certain things that were just foundational to the company, patient, our reputation, which were critical to us, and which, they weren't exactly easy, but we would get through them pretty quickly with the right conversation.
And Eric before referred to agility, which is one of the things that a lot of people have been talking about. You just referred to something, though, especially dealing with healthcare, where it's one, you have to have the science, one, you have to have the legal behind it. Has that teamwork kind of worked its way to those departments as well, that they realize that this is part of the whole brand overall strategy and the marketing strategy? Mm-hmm. To, they need to cross those T's and dot those I's, yeah. But have things been prioritized in those departments as well? Because you all know that you're all working together to pull in the same direction. It has to be as quick as possible due to the circumstances that we're all dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, in our business, the number one thing that our customers across the spectrum value is speed and urgency. Obviously, they expect quality. But one of our executives has this great line. It's patients can't wait, neither can we. So think about every single test or trial, right? People need that for their life. And we know that. And so we're not going to, let our own internal bureaucracies get in the way of that. And that is how the company has operated, right? Because we have, at the end of the day, a life on the line. So, COVID made it harder because there were a lot of dynamics that nobody had dealt with. The demands were great and still are great in COVID with just the entire population is being, nobody's spared from COVID right now. So it did put a pressure of scale on us that we hadn't seen, but that urgency at the end of the day, Eric calls it agility, but it's just kind of the way you have to work, right, when you're in this kind of a setting.
Well put. Now, to wrap things up, I'd love to give you each the opportunity to give the ultimate takeaway for our CMO audience and other members of the C-suite. So what would your takeaway be for, the right approach for this new privacy first landscape? Let's start with you, Amy, then we'll throw it to Elisa, and then we'll wrap up with Eric. Go ahead, Amy.
So the cookieless world has caused us to say, marketing basics matter. Marketing 101. So we have a saying called know me, show me you know me, and show me you care. It's about relevant content and it's about great experiences. So marketing 101, we think will get us through and be better for our customers.
Great. Elisa.
So much good wisdom from Amy. I think some of my advice will be quite similar. I guess I would say good privacy is good business, which really brings to home the point that Amy was made previously. All privacy laws are really built around users' interests first, and the best interest of your users will likely be good for your business and aligned with privacy laws. Focus always on the user. As I mentioned in the design jam that we have, and just generally our philosophy, and it sounds like Amy and Eric as well too, is if you really understand their cultural attitudes towards privacy and as well as what they want from you, that will help you unlock a great on-brand user experience. And then back to that agility point, I guess I would say in privacy, the only constant is change. It really, you definitely need to buckle up. It is a very evolving landscape. There's many things that are ripped from the headlines every single day, and new laws are coming online and new interpretations and new regulations and technological changes. And so really it's critical to be able to develop an agile and flexible approach that can evolve with the changing conditions in either your business, legal requirements, the technological landscape, and most importantly, with what consumers expect.
All right, Eric, in our remaining seconds left, what's your elevator pitch to the CMO?
I'm going to double down on something Amy referenced in passing, which is it's a team sport. So the whole example she gave about sitting on a great idea until everybody got aligned over time and you had the patience to do that. It's also an opportunity for marketers in particular, who are often viewed as the advocate for customers, to let everyone else in on the game and to make organizations consistently across all of the functions become advocates for their customers by contributing to the privacy agenda in particular, but the marketing agenda overall.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for a great conversation. Thank you to Lisa Bergman, the Chief Privacy Officer at Adobe, Amy Summy, Executive Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer at LabCorp, and Eric Larson, who's the America's Lead for Digital and Emerging Technology to EY. And most of all, thanks to everybody out there for joining us today. Goodbye.
Thank you.